Welcome to ragTech, the place for bytes and banter. My name is Natasha, I'm a software engineer and co host, and in this episode, we have Salony, also co host and software engineer, as well as our guest speaker, Martin. Martin is a recently retired software engineer with experience being an educator in the tech community.
I teach Python at the Civil Service College, and I used to teach Python at General Assembly. I just love teaching.
In this episode, he's going to share with us his thoughts about how AI has changed learning, especially as he is considering homeschooling for his young daughter.
I actually asked ChatGPT to teach me everything about statistics because I never was good at math. So I wanted to see if it can teach me statistics. And it could. And it could do it so well that I turned it into a statistics Python course for the Civil Service College. And that is the best rated course of all courses in the Civil Service College. So if this thing could teach me something so well, it could teach anything to anyone, I believe, especially things that you learn up until high school. I think ChatGPT can already do that very
I actually use ChatGPT to teach me things,
Yeah.
like concepts basically. For example, in finances, there are lots of these jargons that I use. I ask ChatGPT to teach me in layman terms what this means.
Yeah.
And it does a very good job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and first, how do I know if I can trust ChatGPT, right? So I ask it, you can try this prompt. I'm a total beginner in Python. Please, you are my mentor. Let's start. That's all you have to write.
Oh yes, yes.
And I kept playing the game with it. It keeps telling you about how to make variables, and then it suggests a few exercises for you. Like open Visual Studio, write "Hello World," print it, and then I'm saying, okay, I can see "Hello World." Then it teaches you about if and else. First it operators, and then if and else, and then for loops, and then while loops, and then functions, and then classes. It's exactly the same way how I teach Python as well. And it even uses exactly the same sample codes that I use in my slides for many, many years already as well, right? So I could see, this thing teaches in the right order, the right things in the right order, right? So
if you prompt it correctly.
if you prompt it correctly,
Yes.
but I mean, that prompt was very minimalistic and it still worked out very well, right? And that's what I mentioned to you earlier as well, right? This is the worst ChatGPT will ever be, or any other LLM. Claude is probably already better than ChatGPT now. So 3 years from now, we will have an LLM that's significantly more intelligent than that, significantly less hallucinations, better at citing its sources and so on, so that you can double check and read, go deeper into a topic. So I feel like every human on Earth is soon going to have a personal mentor. So we get to that stage where we have mastery learning and one-on-one tutoring, right? I'm sure, rich people already do this. They send their students, their kids to private schools. They get private tutors come to their places, right? And now we will democratize this. Everyone will have this education that so far has been reserved for rich people only, right? And then it becomes a game theory kind of thing. The first country that overhauls the education system and just uses AI to have one-on-one mastery learning for every single child in the country will produce an explosion of intelligence and capabilities in that country that other countries will notice. And I think then this will just spread throughout the entire globe very quickly. And I think schools will become places of social gathering only, where the students they will use the AIs to learn, and maybe it usually results in a project that the student will do, and they will all gather at the school to present the projects to each other, right? So that's how I could imagine the future of education could look like. And I can imagine that a company, I always say company, but I mean country, but Singapore is run like a company, right?
Yes, Singapore Corporation.
Freudian slip, but it's also true. So a country like Singapore has been always very good at embracing new technologies very, very quickly. So I can see that actually in Singapore we could end up with something like this, right? And homeschooling is allowed, unlike many other countries in the world. Germany is not allowed.
Oh, not allowed.
Not allowed.
But
Switzerland.
then again, public education is free.
Yeah, it's free, but it's still public education.
Right.
Let's be honest, public education is partly indoctrination, right?
Yes.
I
I
can
don't know
see
if the
that
free
a
helps
country
with
doesn't
it.
want to let go of that, right? So I know that as a homeschooler, I will have to provide lots of paperwork to show to the Ministry of Education how I'm going to do this.
So it's legal in Singapore.
It's legal, but you have to
show.
have a degree, a master's degree, and you have to.
You as in the teacher?
Me, yeah.
Caregiver.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to get a license to be a teacher, which costs like $1,200 a year or something like that. I haven't gone too deeply into all of this, just, browse around a little bit already. I mean, I still have a few years before this really becomes relevant. But yeah, and then you have to write down exactly how you are going to teach with which materials, every single topic.
Interesting.
And things like, it's not just how are you going to teach reading, writing, math. I mean, that's really simple. It's not difficult. Anyone can do that. But also things like understanding the history of the country and creating a patriotic child. You have to prove that as well.
Oh, like social studies. Still have to teach that.
Yeah. So I will have to teach my child the national anthem of Singapore. So I have to learn it myself now.
That's going to be interesting. So it's going to be a learning journey for you as
totally,
well.
for me, yeah.
You have to learn
I'm
first before you...
extremely looking forward to this, actually. Teaching myself all these basic concepts from scratch again. I'm super looking forward to that. Because like I said, I suck at math, and I will now become good at math alongside my daughter, right? As I'm teaching her. With the help of GPT-6, whatever we will have 6 years from now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I always say this, like teaching is the best way to learn.
Exactly, yeah. For sure.
Yeah,
You'll be doing
I
that.
totally agree with that.
Yeah. Another reason why I, do these meetups and give talks. If you have to prepare your stuff to give a tech talk, that is the only way you're really truly going to understand it, right? Because you don't want to talk nonsense in front of an audience where somebody might ask a tricky question afterwards, right? So you want to come prepared. Yeah.
That's the philosophy of my life.
Yeah.
If I ever want to learn something, I'll put myself up for giving a talk on it.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah,
No, I totally agree.
that's really the best way. Yeah. I mean, everybody asks me, but what about the socializing aspect when you do homeschooling? That's the first question every single person that I pitch this idea to bounces back to me like, well, what about the socializing? It's actually a very good question. It's going to be difficult, obviously, but I feel like there are sports clubs, music clubs, whatever, right? There are playgrounds at every single block everywhere in Singapore. I literally have to go down to the playground, and there are like 20 new friends that my daughter can make immediately, right? From our direct neighbors. I feel like the socializing is not going to be an issue. And I feel like a lot of socializing in school is actually bullying. Children can be quite brutal, right?
Yes.
So lots of socializing in school, also in my own experience from my school time, is bullying simply, and I don't think it's valuable for somebody to pick that up. And then once you get into the workforce, I mean, there's also bullying, there's office politics and all that. But I mean, there you have means, you can go to HR and complain, and it's not as tough as in an actual school setting where children are just murdering each other.
Right. It can be really brutal in Asian society.
that might be as well.
Especially if they're a little different
Yes.
from the others.
I can attest to that. If you're a little bit different in a fairly homogeneous society, and even though we're diverse in terms of racial, ethnicity wise, I think our values and cultures tend to be very homogeneous. And if you stand out, if you start becoming that person that speaks up more, who thinks differently, which ironically are skills that our society is trying to embed into our curriculum, you get discriminated a lot and bullied. So maybe with that perspective, homeschooling could bode well to having your child have their own unique personality and traits without being discriminated against, so that it could excel in the workplace. Because these, as you can see, even in engineering with ChatGPT coming along the way, we're not, people are not going to value us just for being code monkeys anymore. We're going to need those skills to start innovating.
True.
To start what does it take to work in a team, to summarize ideas from different people. And these are higher level skills that AI can already solve those lower level skills.
True. Actually, when you mention it, when you look at it that way, I feel there's a huge disruption coming towards Singapore. Because this kind of intelligence that a Singapore school system puts into the heads of the children is going to become worthless. right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
cost for this kind of intelligence trends towards zero now, and it's being done by machines. What we now need is creativity.
Yes, exactly. And our schools haven't hacked that part, the
Yeah.
creative part. And how do you think you're going to hack it in your homeschooling system? Have you figured that out?
I mean, I have my visions already, right? I see myself already. Okay, well, how am I going to do this in 4 years when she gets to the point where, you know, childhood is over, and now the teaching begins. Yeah, but I think this mastery learning aspect is a big part of it, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
we will start every topic very dry, but actually not very dry. So every topic needs to be tied to some real world application.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think I will spend not so much time with her sitting at a desk and crunching numbers or whatever, but more like doing excursions, going out,
Yes,
looking at
yes.
things in the real world, museums, whatever,
For sure.
and always trying to find what can we do, what can we build in order to make this idea stick.
Yes, yes, very Montessori based
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah,
approach.
Montessori really,
And
yeah.
honestly, I feel like it might have come from your you knowing that you can learn anything because
Yeah.
you learn Python on your own. You
Yeah.
learn how to like build things on your own.
Yes.
And I think mastery of any subject is about having those building blocks. We always start there.
Yeah.
But if you already come in with the intention that I want to create, I mean, hence the word creativity, right? It comes from knowing that you have the resources to create. And you're endowing your child with that mastery so they have that building block, but
Yes.
also endowing them with the knowledge that you're going to use these to create whatever you want later. I think that's a valuable part. And
Yeah.
the thing about standardized education is that it doesn't do that latter part.
Yeah.
It gives you that mastery, but it doesn't give you the autonomy to create. You know, it's telling you that the end result, there is only one end result, that test, that whatever.
Yeah.
That's why rote memorization becomes the most efficient
Yes, yeah.
way to achieve that. But what if the deliverable and outcome wasn't that one deliverable and it had many different outcomes?
Yeah.
Then if you think about it from an efficiency perspective, what are like the base level skills? You need that inherent creativity.
Another reason why I think I can do it is, I mean, many people might think this is like super time consuming. I mean, it probably is. I mean, I wouldn't do this as a naively believing I can do this while I'm still working. That would be too risky, right? But when I think about my time in school, especially the earlier years of primary school, secondary school, and even high school, there's so much boilerplate where you don't do learning. Like the first 5 minutes, the teacher tries to get the class be quiet. The next 5 minutes, the teacher tries to get to look at the homeworks, right? Then make sure that everybody understood the homeworks and scold the people who didn't do the homeworks. The next 5 minutes, the teacher's trying to get everyone to open the book at the right page for the next topic, right? Then there might be 5 to 10 minutes of actual learning. So
5 to 10 minutes.
and then there's 5 minutes of explaining the next homework and packing up, and then it's over. 45 minutes gone. So 10 minutes, and you do usually six lessons per day, at least in Germany. I don't know how long school is here. So that's 60 minutes of actual learning, right? And I will get rid of all this boilerplate. There will be no noisy children, right? No child that's throwing paper balls in the classroom. This was normal in Germany. I don't know how. I think the classrooms in Singapore are probably more orderly, right?
It is. I think it's more orderly. Depends on the school.
The ball throwing
class.
still
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, but so far what I have read from looking at YouTube videos of homeschoolers around the world, they all say they do the actual schooling 2 to 3 hours in the morning, and the rest of the day is excursions and experiencing the real world. And I find that quite believable. I think I can get it done in that time as well, especially when I think about how I teach complex topics already to adults. I mean, I teach to adults, so that's going to be a tricky thing where I need to be careful. Teaching children is very different from teaching adults, of course. I'm aware of that. Need to be much more patient and so on. But yeah, so that's the other thing that I have in my mind. You can condense 10 years of school into 1/6 of that time and get through all that. You can get through that much faster, right? And then I hope that I foresee that I will have a full functioning member of society by the time she's probably 12 or whatever. And then I want her to go out and find her passion, basically, right? Education is done. Go around and find your passion. See whatever keeps her entertained for like days and days and days, right? And then as she finds her passion, she will become very, very good at that thing, right? Everyone says if you want to stand out, find that one thing that no one else in the world does, and you become very good. You become the best in the world at that one thing, and your life is going to be fine, right? And this is what I'm hoping to enable for my daughter eventually as well. Like she will just bounce around and try out this and that and this. I will just enable everything. My parents did that for me actually as well. Now when I think back to it, if I showed any interest in swimming, they put me into a swimming class. If they put me into a chess club. When I touched one chessboard, as I pushed a key on a piano, they bought me a keyboard, and I just self-taught myself whatever. I just had some time, right? And so yeah, humans are knowledge sponges and self-learning machines, right?
Yes.
And I just want to enable that basically, and I think the outcome will be good in the end. It worked for me. It's gonna work for her as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, and good is subjective anyways. I think one of the most important things you're going to get out of this is that bond that you'll share with your
For
daughter.
sure.
Yeah.
That's an incredible privilege.
Yes, because a lot of like children don't have this with their parents, especially when we were talking about the tendency for dual working parents, and you're basically outsourcing that bond, that care, that education, right?
Maybe, now that you touched on that topic, brings us back to the very beginning when you asked like, what's your day like with your newborn now? So, I mentioned I was very late as a parent, right? So all my friends already have 2 children, and they're all like 10 years old already, right? So I saw all these babies coming into the world. And of course I love them all, and usually my friends' kids also like me very much. Whenever I come to visit during Christmas time, the cool uncle who brings the cool toys, right? But then they are all very cute, but then when they scream, you're like, oh my god, this is so annoying, right? And I can see how lots of young people, they feel like, I don't want to be a parent. Like I want to enjoy my life, I want to travel the world. But when I got my own child, the screaming is different. It's not the kind of screaming that you hear from other children when you go to the mall or whatever. The screams of your own child is a language that you immediately understand. Like after 3 days, we could distinguish the I'm hungry scream from the my diaper is full scream from the I have colic scream. That's 3 different distinct screams. So you don't feel stressed anymore about this noise because it's actual communication going on, and you're like, damn, she's like only 2 months old,
and
but
she's talking.
by mimicking, by what she does with her eyes and eyebrows and smiles. When she starts smiling, it's the best ever, and when she starts laughing, it's even better. And so with your own child, so like if there are people out there who feel like I don't want to have that, it's like too difficult, it's too noisy and too crazy. No, it's actually not. If it's your own baby, you don't realize this as screaming, as noise. It's actual communication going on right from the beginning, from day one. Yeah,
That's very true.
it's quite remarkable.
Yeah. I really love your entire perspective on parenting. There's so much awe and there's so much learning. Even though we're talking about homeschooling education for the child, we're talking a lot about how I'm excited to learn to teach my child. And really, it just reminds me of this whole my own joy at being an engineer. Also, it's very similar. It's a new problem to solve. Like you were talking about just now.
And
It's a new thing to learn.
I feel like as engineers, we are probably better parents. I feel like I'm constantly debugging my own baby.
I love that.
I literally have flowcharts in my mind. Oh, she screams. Okay, did she pee? No, diaper is fine. Right? Does it look like she's in pain? Okay, let's do a little bit of a baby massage. Okay, she's still screaming. Oh, maybe she's bored. Let's go to a different room. The screaming stops, right? So like I have this flowchart already of how to debug my baby.
Debugging, and you're never once frustrated because you're like, okay, I just have to find another alternative. I just have to find something else. There must always be like a root problem that I can solve.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we're trained to be very patient, very resourceful.
Very logical
in
the approach.
Exactly, very logical too. And where we don't know, we just find resources from elsewhere. We read other books, we look at online resources, we look at what other parents are doing, we ask other gurus in the community. It's actually the similar approach, right?
Which is another good point that you bring up that I forgot when we were talking about homeschooling. We live in a point in time now where virtually all human knowledge is available to everyone. Right?
Yes.
We have tutorials about everything on YouTube. We have Coursera, Udemy, Khan Academy. We have that website, LibGen, where all books. I mean, it's pirated. Don't use it. Don't use it.
We're not using it.
There's a command line tool where you can just download any book very easily. And then there's this other lady from, is it Pakistan or some place, where she has all the journal papers, all pirated journal papers, right?
Yes.
And we have archive. So it's an incredible point in time right now where this wouldn't have been possible for us growing up, where there was no internet, right? Now we have it and it's all there. Of course, it gets more and more monetized now, so download as much as you can while it's still free, I would say. Yeah. I have a few terabytes at home. I'm just downloading all the stuff all the time. So yeah, that needs to be said, right? We live in this world now where all this knowledge is there. And LLMs will actually empower us to sift through that knowledge in a more structured way. I mean, it's also two coins, right? There's all this knowledge, but there's a lot of noise and very little signal, right? There are so many scientific papers that are fraudulent or not reproducible and whatever, or like biased, thanks to financial incentives behind them that are not communicated and so on. And I feel like with LLMs, we will be able to just soak in all that knowledge, vectorize it, and then ask the LLM what if there are certain big picture patterns that it can see. So it's going to be great. So I've been doing this actually for a while. I mentioned this earlier, right? Before the talk, that I built a little tool to summarize YouTube videos. And I gave talks about this at the library on how I built it. So it's open source. Anyone can actually now download it. It's a Docker container, Docker up, and the tool runs for you. And it's incredible. I have been piping all interesting YouTube videos, 2-3 hour long videos, podcasts usually, right? Which I would never have had the time to watch. And now I just pipe it into the tool. Like 30 seconds later, I have a bullet point summary, and it's a very, very accurate summary. Like ChatGPT is really good at taking some text and summarizing it. There is no room for hallucination because it just takes the content that's already in the context.
That's true.
And these summaries are just incredible. Like I can soak up so much knowledge in very, very short amount of time. And I'm saving all these summaries into my notes app. And then I vectorize all these summaries. And now I can speak to my own notes. So I've been taking notes my whole life, but it's usually like a black hole. Everything goes into my notes app and I never look at it again, right? And now I actually can. I can literally ask, what do I know? I'm very into keto diet and nutrition and so on. What do I know about correlation between high cholesterol and heart disease, for example? And it's going to tell me, based on my notes, what my current knowledge is about this topic, right? And imagine if we could just scrape every single scientific paper like that and then ask questions about that. Like, maybe you want to dive deep into a certain topic, maybe blockchain. You collect all scientific papers about blockchains and then you just pipe them all into an LLM and then you start using this mentor that you built for yourself to teach you about that topic. And then it's more interactive to speak to that knowledge than reading all those papers and finding the little bits of nuggets of true wisdom in a huge amount of text, right?
Right. Especially in this day and age of just information overload, right? I like how you summarize all of that in this day and age, learning takes on a different tone. Even though our standardized education systems might not have evolved to change for this generation, we do have the resources and that autonomy to use these AI tools, to use these LLMs to learn for ourselves, and not just learn for ourselves, to teach it to the next generation as well, in your case. And I feel like with all that we've talked about, we've talked about open source, the Python community, we've talked about finances, and then now we're talking about learning. Actually, this entire journey as an engineer, I think learning is such a prevalent theme that keeps coming about. With like open source community, Python, it's about learning from the community. It's about sharing that knowledge. Finances, it's also about like doing your due diligence, learning what works for you and what doesn't. And then obviously when we're talking about like being a dad, being like exploring homeschooling, knowing what works for your kid and what doesn't, that's also learning as well. And being an engineer might prime you to be a better parent as well. So I think we've learned a lot from you, Martin, from your very diverse experiences. And I'm sure this will not be the first time that we're going to talk to you. You said you were also exploring some sort of like podcast channel as well, or maybe like a means to share knowledge more. So we'll be happy to see how we can work with you on this journey as well. But thank you so much for being here. We've learned so much, really. And yeah, we hope to see you next time and also see what you have in store. And yeah, we'll hope to see your daughter one day too, and how she like comes through that homeschooling methodology.
Yes, it was a great pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And do like and subscribe to us.
I forgot that.
Do it again.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.